Okay, here we go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Experts Connect session with the Networking Studio. We have a very special guest today. We have with us Cassie Armstrong. Cassie has been a freelance editor for more than 18 years. In the past, she's mentored other editors as part of her Northwest Editors Guild membership. She loves working with editors and individual authors one-on-one. She feels that mentoring allows her to connect with her many years of teaching and what she loves to do. During her career, she's edited award-winning cookbooks. She's provided pro bono work for a local nonprofit. And she also, as one of the things that she specializes in, she does Americanization of text for British publishers. And she has Americanized craft books for American publishers that were originally published outside the United States. She loves editing children's books, cookbooks, and craft books. And she also loves all kinds of musics, and she's a textile junkie. When she's not editing, Cassie, what can we find you doing?
Well, listening to a lot of music, looking forward to a vacation in about 2 weeks to the beach. I haven't been for 2 years. Uh, uh, Hanging out with my almost 21-year-old grandson, cooking. Um, um,
In crafting, what kind of craft? Like if you had, I don't know, a couple of hours today and you could just do the whatever craft you'd like to do, what would that be?
I am actually working on a Ukrainian um, pattern for a cross-stitch mandala,
Ooh,
and it's pretty intense.
it
It,
sounds intricate.
it's pretty intense. I finished a month ago. I went to the University of Arizona, so and my husband spent a lot of years in southern Arizona. So for him, I did a cross stitch of all different kinds of cacti. So, and I
Oh, how
gave it
fun.
to him for a early anniversary present. And it's framed and it's hanging in our bedroom. And people are going, ew, but I've cross-stitched robots. I've knitted. When I was younger, I did knitted Afghans. I made baby blankets. I've crocheted uh, um, pot holders and dishcloths. I love to crochet dishcloths because I learned different new stitches from
Mm,
doing that.
yeah, yeah.
So, and my goal was to get better at knitting because a lot of editors knit, and I can do the grandma's dishcloth and do it in about an hour and a half. And I do that when I go to a wood carvers show, which they hold in Colorado Springs once a year. I take my little yarn and my two knitting needles and I sit there and I work on that. So yeah, I use it. I do it whenever, instead of just sitting in a chair, I have to keep my hands busy.
Mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm.
and I've made um, cross stitched um, bookmarks. And I love, actually, you guys did it, all the holiday crafts. Well, when I was growing up,
Yeah.
the cool thing was to do was I lived in the San Joaquin Valley in California, so we didn't have snow. So what did you do? You had tumbleweeds and you sprayed them white and you made them snowmen.
I love that. The
That's what you,
creativity.
yeah, that's what you
Nice.
did. So, and I've made the doll clothes, and I've done all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I've quilting, I've made a few quilts. I love that. The creativeness,
Yeah.
the ability of these people, go to all the festivals. If there's a farmer's market, you're usually gonna find a craft table.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Always, always. I think, and you've probably seen it at farm, and we're getting way off topic here, and we'll come back in a second. But yeah, at the local farmers market that I used to go to in LA, there was a gentleman with a typewriter,
Uh-huh.
and he would type little poems for you, based on your name or what you liked, and then you'd get to take home a little poem, like a little vintage. Oh my goodness, bookmark with a little
Yeah.
poem on it written. And I was like, that is so awesome.
Well, see, that's a craft. And
Yeah, yeah,
actually getting back to it, well, when I was looking at, Linda sent me a whole bunch of cool questions, right? And I'm considering this popular crafts.
yeah,
Okay.
for
I'm
sure.
defining this as popular because it was pointed out to me in my research, well, writing is a craft, and it
True,
is.
true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but we're not talking about writing, well, we are, but we're specifically talking about crafts. And I learned to knit and crochet when I was 10 or 11 years old during family water skiing vacations. My aunt taught me sitting on a beach and a lake,
Yeah.
and she taught me how to knit and crochet.
So
So,
and that's how it was for my family too. In Argentina, you learn to sew and knit in, God, it was fourth grade or fifth grade, I think. And my son, though, here, he learned to crochet at school in kindergarten.
well,
It was
that's
part
cool.
of like, yeah, it was part of like an anxiety process, hands, learn to do things. And he'd come home with these like long, long chain. It was just like chain, 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 chain. So, but
Yeah,
getting back to our visit with you today, Cassie, you have the capabilities to share your screen if you'd like to start sharing your screen or start your presentation, and we can
yeah.
go from there.
Well, first off, the question, you know a little bit about me. So the question that I'm going to talk to you about today is, as you know, you have an interest in craft. You've said, okay, well, I like crafting, but I've never looked at craft books as a specific niche. Well, my question is answering for you first, well, then why craft books? Okay.
Hmm.
Well, there are several reasons. It's the opportunity to engage with authors and publishers where you're going to learn a lot of new techniques and new crafts. And
Hmm.
I really like that. It's
Hmm.
also, you're working with hands-on projects. When I'm editing say a book on crochet or knitting, you're going to have to, in some instances, to make sure that you have it right, make a test swatch. So you've got to do that. Another thing is the beautiful visuals that are in craft books. Sometimes, if you're bored, my husband is a wood carver, so we've got a lot of those books. Grab one of those, sit down, and just look at the pictures. They're absolutely beautiful, and the publishers are banking on them to help sell the book. Um, Teamwork. You're working with a whole bunch of technical people as well as authors who really know more about the craft that they're writing the book about than you do. Um, as I said, learning. I love it because every time I work on a book, you've got a book maybe of 12 projects. You're learning something new. They're new. If you're doing knitting, there are new stitches. If you're doing crochet, they've got perhaps different ways to put these books together. So it's again, it's learning new stuff. And then finally, the ability to market yourself to other publishers. You're jumping in this, well, blah, blah, blah. I don't really have anything that they'd want. You're going to find out in a few minutes that yes, you do. When we talk about what publishers are looking for in craft books, as well as what publishers are looking for in editors who work on craft books. So the first thing I want to talk about is, okay, niche crafts. We're talking about trendy crafts. So right now, what is it? Felting, weaving, jewelry making out of polymer clay or a whole bunch of materials. Um, uh, if you go to, say, a Scottish games, it's bobbin making lace out of bobbin, bobbin lace making. That's a specific craft, but boy, have you ever watched them do it? I would
Sounds
love,
exhausting.
yeah, and I would love a book that would teach me how to do it, right? They've
Mm.
got also, what, I had a few other thinking about it. Oh, t-shirts. All t-shirts are very trendy, hats are trendy, embroidery on hats or on clothing is very trendy. So those are trendy. And then if you go again to farmers markets or festivals, you're going to come up with a whole bunch of more trendy crafts. So with that, let's talk about,
And
and
I'm going to back that up saying, Cassie, so I have a 15-year-old niece who's very hip and trendy, of course, and she will be wearing these sweatshirts that are so incredibly expensive because they have some kind of hand stitching detail on them.
yeah, there,
Um,
there is a group on Facebook. It's an embroidery group.
yeah.
They have just the people who contribute to that group and what they've done with on tennis shoes, on the sides of tennis shoes,
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
on the sweatshirts for all different ages of individuals, on hats. Um, it's fascinating. And they will sit there and they will say, well, and people will ask them, well, how did you do that? Where did you get the material? And they are very willing to share their expertise with everybody on that group. And it's just again, going back to if you just want to see what other people are doing, there are a whole bunch of groups like that on Facebook. And embroidery is just one of them. Okay, so then, okay, let's, now you're right in that craft books are a very distinct, specific niche. And I have a graphic for you. Okay, if share. No, 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 wrong one, wrong one. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna have to go back, guys, for a minute.
Yeah, don't worry.
There it is. Okay,
Let me,
so,
so wait, Cassie, because we're still seeing the email.
okay,
So make sure that you can, yeah.
if I share, can you see that now?
No, let me suggest this, like do the stop share and then
Okay,
start it again.
okay,
It's kind of tricky on a laptop, because it's hard to see what screen you're on.
okay. So I go over here and see at the bottom,
Let's see.
here you are. Here you are. Okay, this is not,
Is
all
it not?
right,
Let's see.
no.
So
How,
you can, yeah, try minimizing that screen because I see your error, or I don't know if we're on an old screen share, but
let me
if you
minimize that
minimize
again.
the email and then bring up the presentation one.
Okay, I'm gonna cancel that. Okay, I'm gonna have to, okay, I do not know what I did wrong, Linda.
Okay, don't worry, don't worry. Let me see if I can, hold on, advanced sharing options. So let me see if I can change this, okay. And then try it now.
Share. Does that work? No.
It's coming up. Let's see. There we go. Yes.
Okay. I do have to admit that craft books are a specific small niche. You have to consider that about 4 million books are published a year. Of those, the 4 million that are published a year, about 500,000 to a million are traditionally published. And of those, only 5,000 to 20,000 craft books are published. And you might be asking yourself, well, then heck, that's not, or saying that's not very much. Why then should I even consider even working on craft books? Well, again, going back to why craft books, because there's always the opportunity of learning something new or having um, the wonderful experience of being among the editors who made those craft books better. So that's what I want you. I don't want you to get upset by the only 5,000 to 20,000 books. I want you to think about, oh, wow, look at the opportunities. And used to be when I was editing the craft books, they would send me a copy of the craft book I edited. They don't do that anymore. I wish they did, but they don't do that anymore.
Still,
So,
though, I'm surprised. Like 5,000 to 20,000 craft books is a. I mean, in the 4 million, it might not seem like a lot, but it is a lot of. If this is on a yearly basis,
yeah.
it's still a lot. So it definitely. I'm of the glass half full kind of person, so I can totally see that there's a couple, one or two are there for me every year.
Well,
Probably.
if you want to giggle, right? Or if you want to again see what's trendy in the craft books, besides going to the craft fairs and the festivals, go to your local bookstore, go in the craft section, and
Yeah.
see what kind of books the publishers are publishing.
So I was just, while we're speaking, I'm going to pull up, I have that app Pub Rocket that will tell me the top 20 best-selling books right now in craft. So I can like
Oh,
select
that's
it. So
cool.
I'm
All
going to
right.
look that up while we keep talking, but excellent. Then I can share that afterwards.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so along this line we've talked about how many books. I want to make you aware of the publishers, give you a sample of publishers who are publishing craft books. One of the probably most well-known publishers is Chronicle Books. They're in San Francisco, and they're an independent publisher, and they publish craft books and DIY titles, and they publish craft books for both children and adults. Another publisher is Interweave Press. Interweave Press is probably really well known. They're in Colorado. They publish felting books on felting. They publish sewing books. They publish knitting books. They publish books on crochet, and they publish books on jewelry making. They have a presence on Facebook. They have a magazine, and they have, again, probably if you go to your bookstore and you're for crap, they're going to be um, they're a good example of the craft books in your bookstore. Uh, Another one um, is Fox Chapel Publishing. They're on the East Coast. They publish a lot of woodworking and carving books, and they publish their again, the pictures are gorgeous. They publish for the carving Christmas ornaments, they seasonal stuff, but their instructions, the author talks a little bit about themselves. They make sure that the instructions and direction, the materials and everything is right there. They want you to succeed as a crafter, and they're really well done. Another one that's a small regional press is called Rio Nuevo Press. They're in Tucson. They publish craft books that are Southwestern in nature. They publish books on Dia de los Muertos. They publish books on maybe weaving, if you're going to weave a Navajo rug. They've got patterns on how you can do that. They're very small. Most of the work with editors they do is in-house, but their books are also beautiful. Another one I'd like you to be aware of is Quarto Publishing. They're located in both the United Kingdom and also in the United States. They publish a whole bunch of different kind of books, and one of the genres they publish is craft books and cookbooks, and it's again designed for both adults and children. And there's what when I was doing, interestingly enough, I used AI uh, to help with finding a list of these craft books. And one of the um, uh, um, publishers that they told me about, and let me see, they listed, I think it's C&T Publisher. No, okay. Oh, it's Trafalgar Square Books. And they listed them as illustrated arts and craft books. But when I was looking into them, and I may be wrong about the title, um, most of the books that they published were about horses. And they have the only craft books they had were in knitting Christmas ornaments. So let me see. I think I may have given you the wrong title of the publisher.
Okay, if not, you can post it later in the chat too.
Yeah, I
Yeah, in
will.
the chat or in the circle space, Cassie, since you're going to be
Yeah.
there with us now.
And so those are just a few of the publishers who publish craft books. And if you just want to see, just for out of curiosity, just do a Google search or ask AI to help you with discovering the publishers who publish craft books. Okay, so
Would you
that just,
say, I have a totally random question. Sorry, Kathy, to
no,
interrupt
you're
you. Would
good.
you say, because when I think of craft publishing, books
Uh-huh,
are definitely what I think of first. But then when I go to like Michael's,
uh-huh,
the amount of craft magazines that there are and that I've
uh-huh.
also bought, because so it feels like there's just as strong as the publishing arm is, the publishing arm for magazines seems to still hold up strong and be around.
Yeah, and that is actually true. And then for one of the clients I worked with in the UK, they were a packager. But what I did for them is I helped them Americanize uh, knitting and crochet magazines
Mm-hmm.
that they were offering to the American public. And they had, I'd say I helped them with about 20 or 30 titles. So and Interweave also publishes magazines. So even if you go, say, your local Barnes and Noble and
Yeah.
just look at all of the different craft magazines, like knitting, quilting and knitting and crochet, and then they've got according to seasonal craft magazines.
Yeah.
Yes, Linda, you're 1,000% right. And
Yeah, because I'm a
remember,
sucker and I end up buying those because I'm like, I'll commit to the magazine, the project of the magazine, not the one in the book that it feels a little bit longer. And the magazines, just for reference, those magazines are between $15 to $20. So it's almost the cost of a book.
yeah,
Um, so yeah,
yeah, and that's actually from the robot sampler cross stitch. I got it out of a magazine.
yeah.
So, and when I was a kid, it was very popular. Woman's Day was very popular, and they would have weekly. Uh, Actually, my husband's mom used to buy them weekly, and weekly they would have different craft projects. And just standing at a grocery store checkout, it was there, and people were going through these magazines looking for different crafts. So yes, you are 1,000% right. Magazines. Okay, with that in mind, well, okay, then let's see this. What are publishers looking for in craft books? Well, as we've been talking, they're looking for trendy subjects. If there's maybe someone has come up with a new way to make jewelry instead of using beading, again, polymer clay. Um, they want subjects that have little competition. They want subjects and books that stick out and that are different from everybody else. So if you're an author and you've come up with, this is just an example of a way to teach kids how to make piñatas that somebody else hasn't come up with, well, then they're probably going to ask you, get their acquisitions editor is going to, or talk to you and ask you and talk to you about your book on that subject. So, and that's another thing, start thinking about, these subjects with little competition. There are a gazillion knitting books. I've seen not a lot of felting books because that's a little bit more specific, right? Um, their publishers are also looking for books that fill gaps. And as we said, present the craft in a new and unique way.
Yeah, and hearing you speak, I was thinking that I took my son to an art class yesterday. He's taking it on Wednesdays at his school in the afternoons with their art teacher. And I was thinking all like a craft book intended for summer school teachers that have to keep their kids busy for programs, that's broken down by age and things that, they could be using, but that's specifically intended seasonal. It's for summer. It's to keep kids, I don't know, whether it be different crafts, it would be all felting, maybe it's felting and knitting and crocheting and paper mache, but that's a great idea to, especially if you know someone who's talented, to pitch them the idea, hey, you should write a book proposal for something like this. And
There was a book when my kids were little that was called Make Me a Rainbow. And I can't find it anymore. And I had it, in my bookshelf, and it was like the crafter young person's or summer school or during school Bible, because it would, same thing. It had a whole book filled with all of these different crafts that the teachers could use, or even parents could use when their children were very small. And I would love for someone to actually write a new version of Make Me a Rainbow. And so I think, really, Linda, you should talk to your son's teacher and throw that idea out there.
yeah, picture the idea. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, because that would be perfect.
And it's interesting too, because like on that note, as someone who's involved with schools, seeing the projects people are working on, and sometimes I think schools are getting more refined with the kind of things that they're offering or teaching kids to learn. And so my son learned this last semester how to make an alebrije.
Oh,
I don't know if everybody knows what an alebrije is. You've seen them in so many different stores, but it's a Mexican arts and craft where it's the shape of an animal, but it's like an animal that's come from a dream. So it looks like an animal made of two or three different animals, and it's very bright colors. They're usually made in wood, and they have like really like fluorescent colors painted all over their little bodies. So, and I went searching because I really liked that project, and he was telling me the whole history behind that project or that kind of artwork. And there are no books about that. And I thought, what a great idea to have a book about how to make paper mache alebrijes at home with your family or different kinds of materials. But so yeah, I agree. There is a market, and I think with the right proposal, it's something that editors could
and
tackle.
and maybe they just haven't come up, maybe it hasn't occurred, or the author is thinking, oh, well, who would be interested in this, right?
Yeah, 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 exactly. So
Well,
interesting.
but a lot of people would be, because it's the creativeness
Yeah,
side, right?
definitely, definitely.
Okay. Also innovative formats, and the innovative formats fits beautifully into the examples that you have been giving, Linda. Um, so if if you have an author that, like I said, maybe there's a um, new way with paper mache. Maybe it used to be you could make the paper mache jewelry, right? But I don't see that much anymore either. So maybe it's just bringing that idea back. Publishers are also looking for books that include diversity and also inclusion. Say, a year ago, I had the opportunity to go to a, a group in Denver. They make African American quilts. And the ladies came down with a sample of their quilts, and some of them had from, say, the all the symbols, African American symbols and everything that were hidden in the quilt. So even if, say, you're Jamaican or you are Southwestern or whatever, it's the diversity and not a lot. They want more and more diversity in these projects. So they're sharing all of these projects, with everyone else, right? So that's again what publishers are looking for in craft books. And it's fun, even with this in mind, to go and, okay, granted, my idea of fun is a little warped, but go into your local bookstore and see, okay, so what topics are trending in craft? What subjects are there that some publishers are publishing that have little competition, right? So kind of just look and then educate yourself on that as well. The next thing that goes very nicely with that. Well, you're an editor, right? So whoops, hang on. Did I forget it? Oh, no, I didn't include it. What are editors looking for, or what are publishers looking for in editors? Well, they want editors who have expertise in a certain craft. They want editors who can do research. They want editors who are comfortable working with little paragraphs that describe the craft, or what are editors who are experienced with instructions and making the instructions clearer. They want editors who, I have some more attention to, again, detail, spotting errors in the text. Maybe because there's a lot of mathematics involved in some of the instructions, you've got to spot that error. Maybe if you're Americanizing a book, for instance, you've got to convert it from uh, the um, the mathematics to your
Yeah, from like the
actual.
metric system into,
Yeah, you've
yeah,
got to,
for
and
sure.
some publishers will give you a list and a table that'll help you do that, but
Yeah.
you still have to check it.
I'm going
Maybe,
to, yeah, sorry, Kathy. One of the things that I want to bring up here, because I think for maybe some of us that might sound like really intimidating. Like if I'm not a specialist in a certain craft, maybe I shouldn't be approaching a project, or I shouldn't
no,
accept a project. But I think it's more thinking, and I think for me, what would feel comfortable would be any kind of beginner's craft book for something specifically. So a certain type like felting, beginner's felting, even if I've
yeah,
never felted, I would be a beginner. And so I'm coming at it with the eyes of a beginner, and I have the skills that I need to edit that book because of all the editing expertise I already have, but also because I can have the fresh perspective of someone who doesn't know a thing about felting and is just going to have to learn terminology, materials, and everything from scratch. So I still think I want to make sure that nobody feels discouraged that if you're not an
no, no, no,
expert in
no,
something that you
no, no,
can't
no, no,
do.
yeah, and you're 100% right. And this is why, you and I have talked about this, Linda. This is why and I have some people that I go and talk to when I'm editing a specific book on a specific craft that know more about the craft than I do. Or you go to the project manager and you ask them a question, and they'll be more than happy to answer. And they don't expect you to have to be the know all and be all about that specific craft. But they do want you to know enough about that craft that you can see where there some of the maybe the instructions don't make sense,
Yeah.
or maybe some of the instructions need more detail, right? They
Hmm.
want you to be able to see that.
Definitely.
And then they want you to um, have an audience understanding, see, which comes very nicely into what you're saying, Linda. Okay, you're coming at, maybe you don't know a lot about this craft, but okay, you're reading this and you're thinking, okay, what would someone who's new to this craft want to know? And is it included in this book? So they want you to be able to point that out too. See, see what I'm saying? So your expertise as an editor is very valuable to them. And then your ability to work in teams and to communicate with to other people, the author, the project manager, the design person, they need to have your experience in that area too.
Yeah, and I'm going to probably add to that that a lot of people that write, well, people that are great at crafts that want to have a craft book are not necessarily great writers. That's
Yes,
not where their
ma'am.
strength lies. And so a lot of times these are visual learners, these are people that are tactile learners, and they have a whole other learning set of tools that they use that the editor has to help them get it on the page. So it's very likely that the projects we get are not going to be complete or the most ironed out by the time we receive them as an editor, because a lot of times the editor's job is going to be to go and interpret what the author was trying to say with that, instruction or the lack of instruction that needs to be added now into the text. So that's very common as well. And I think
Yeah.
that's why it's very much worth saying, can I see a sample of a chapter to gauge the level of involvement you're going to have in that project?
And actually, when they send you a possibility of a project, they will tell you what the project is, and they will send you a sample or two of the projects that are in that book. And then and if you can come back to them and say, this is really great, but, right? And then you
Yeah.
can ask them, so then are you want me to be an expert, or how do you want me, how do you want me to interact, or what are you asking me to do with this book?
Yeah. What level of involvement do I need to have? Yeah.
Right.
With
And
this
that's all,
yeah.
but you know what? That's really important with any kind of editing you do,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
That's some of the questions that you asked from the get-go.
Yeah.
Okay, so next, then we come to, well, then how do editors find clients? You're really, you've kind of, this has kind of whetted your appetite. You're interested in maybe pursuing this niche, but how do you find the clients? It's the same as what editors always do. You do networking. You attend events, and those events, like I said, can be craft festivals, can be farmers markets, can be school craft fairs. Just kind of join associations. You can join your local quilt guild. If there is a knitting, or you mentioned Michael's, Linda.
Yeah.
Michael's offers a whole bunch of different classes, and with those crafts, they also offer as a reference some of the people that you may want to contact for more information. So
Hmm.
talk to them. Engage in author editor groups. And that there are, as I said, a lot of editors who are knitters and crocheters. And when I was editing the books for Interweave, uh, um, Kat, on Facebook, She's a huge knitter. She, I would ask her, well, okay, send her just a paragraph of an instruction and say, does this sound right to you? And I'm not asking her to do it, but I was asking her, and I told her what my interpretation was just to get, because I didn't get it. There are also a whole bunch of other groups out there that you can online crochet, where you can get a whole bunch of patterns, knitting, quilting, blog posts. All there are all of know about all of these people. Then you should have a professional website that if you, and it actually the website that I had before this one, um, but I would highlight my craft. There are testimonials from publishers that I had worked with on craft books. There were lists of craft books. I admit that on my new website, I haven't included it because I was afraid it would just be too much for everybody to take in. So I need to bring it back. Blogs. If you really are interested in crafting, write a blog about it or read other blogs about crafting. LinkedIn, and this is something that I need to do. I haven't done. Um, post your familiarity with crafts on LinkedIn. I always think of LinkedIn as editors and um, nonfiction, and I don't get really specific as what type of nonfiction, adult and children's books, but I'm sure would be an interest in portfolio platforms. Again, um, Facebook, where I know of knitting, crochet, quilting groups, and also on Blue Sky. And all you have to do is maybe say to them, hey, wow, that's really a neat project. How long did it take you to and do it? And where did you learn to felt? It doesn't have to say, you don't have to say, hi, I'm Cassie Armstrong. I edit craft books. I want to edit yours. That's like going to a writing group, walking in and handing out cards and saying, give me your business. No, establish yourself first, prove your credibility, and then from there go on. And then write personal emails and also snail mail letters to certain publishers. And then again, with the craft focus forums, maybe it's just forums on Facebook, but let them know what you can, that, hey, this is really cool. When I finished my cactus sampler, I did post a picture of the sampler on the cross stitch embroidery group. And I have to admit that I was kind of worried about, oh my gosh, what are they going to think about this, right? Because their talent, they're gorgeous. They were very kind and said, wow, that's really nice. But so do that. Again, you're just connecting with other craft groups, right? All right. So finally, what I'd like you to think about is you've decided to write the email or the cover letter. So what are you going to include in that email and cover letter? Well, first, as with everything, and what we've talked about this morning is do your homework. Find out about the publisher, find out if they publish the kind of craft book you're interested in, get the contact information, realize that maybe the contact information that you have is old. So it's going to take a little bit more research to find either the project manager, editor, or new managing editor to talk to. I can tell you that when I first started approaching and talking to Fox Chapel, it took me a year of going back and forth, and it was the director of editorial before they actually said, hey, yeah, we'd like you to work with us. So be prepared that it may take you a while. And but if that's what you want to do, right, at least they know your name. At least they know that, wow, this person really wants to do this, right? In your letter or your email, mention your crafting experience. This is extremely important. This is as important as saying, hey, I really like the type of craft books that you've edited, and if you have used one of their craft books in the past, it's okay to mention what that craft book was. So it's not like you're the 5,000 people that are dropping in their mailbox, their inbox, and saying, hire me, put me on your freelance editors list. And then this is what I do. And I do this for craft books, cookbooks, and children's books. I include a list of craft books that I edit. And the reason I do that is, again, it's proving my credibility. Some editors and I don't necessarily see eye to eye in this. They think that all you should do is just send your resume, and if they're interested, they'll ask you for that list. But I'm hard-headed sometimes, and I always include that list with my cover letter and resume. And because I do that, I usually get a good response. Okay, so I hope that my little conversation today has given you I know it's been a lot of information, and I know that it's given you a lot of things to think about, but I'm hoping that if you do have an interest in craft books, that this will give you kind of the determination to pursue that interest and consider adding the niche of editing craft books to your clients and also what you offer.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea too. If editing craft books or a specific type of craft is something that you're considering doing, it would be nice to let your existing clients know that you're going to also be adding that kind of service to
Yeah.
your service portfolio. And then I think if you haven't edited a craft book before, and I don't think I have, I'm trying to think, and I don't think I've edited a craft book before, I would still mention that, you know, the crafting experience I have, whether it be that I'm always following this group on Instagram, the group of woodworkers or wood turners, and I'm always reading books about this, or I'm an avid, I go to this kind of event. So it doesn't have to be per se that you are
No.
currently editing that kind of genre of craft book, but what your interest in the subject matter is and what you know about it, because I think that always helps. I'm going to share quickly, Cassie, if you don't mind. Let me see if I can share my screen. So I pulled up this. Can you see this screen that I have here? Pub Rocket. Let me see if I
Uh,
do you see the publisher rocket on the top? Yeah. Okay. So this is the list of the top 10 craft books being sold right now in the US. And if you look at it, the first one is Fun and Easy Crafting with Recycled Material. So not knitting, not crocheting, not sewing, but here are working with recycled. This sounds like a great summer book, also summer school book, I think, what I was thinking about. Look at the price point and look at the monthly sales of that book, 4,296. That's not bad, especially because these are usually, in my experience, Cassie, these are paperbacks. These aren't really hardcovers, some of these. So
yeah.
engineering activities for kids, and they have
Oh,
STEAM activities, which I think is great too.
that's extremely popular right now.
Yeah, yeah. I love this one, low mess craft for kids, because as a parent, I know the last thing I want to be doing is pulling out paint and glue things onto the kitchen table that I'm going to have to clean up later. Creepy craft. Here we go into a niche within a niche, I kind of feel. But excellent idea, like creepy craft, like things that you could do maybe, for Halloween or goths. So what does it say here? That's kind of, yeah. So that looks pretty, actually, that looks like a pretty cool book. The reverse coloring book. This book has the colors, you draw the lines.
Oh, that would be cool.
Very cool paper craft. And if you see, I didn't put kids, but the majority of the top 10 lists are for kids. And that could be because we're in the summer right now, or we're starting the summer. And so parents are actively making pipe cleaner pets.
Oh, that would be neat because I have a whole drawer of pipe cleaners. I have a cat who chases them and brings them back.
See, well, there you go. So this is really interesting. The only real kind of adult book I feel is this one, the Martha Stewart Encyclopedia of Crafts. But everything
Okay.
else that's selling right now in the top 10 is all for children or, teens. So,
Yeah.
and
Well,
it's because us parents, we won't bat an eye buying a book if it's going to keep our kids busy with something for a while. So
that's true. Yeah.
I think that's really, yeah, that's really interesting. Cassie, well, thank you so much for this talk. Does anybody have any questions before we go for Cassie, or anything that you'd like to share?
I just want to say thank you. This is really, really wonderful. And it does kind of make me feel like a beginner editor again, because I can't list any craft books that I've already edited. But, I was thinking about all my years of teaching and how that would be a huge plug that I could use for, ensuring clarity and, all my other editing experience. And then also my crafting experience, which I
Yeah.
probably, without listening to you, I probably wouldn't have thought that anyone would have cared about that.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly right, Adrian. See, okay, you say, okay, I haven't. When I started editing craft books, I was in the same, and I started as a proofreader.
Yeah.
So when I was editing them, I would see the PDF of the finished product, right? And then, but again, the way I put my foot in the door, telling them that I was a crafter,
Mhm.
right? Letting them know that same thing. I'm familiar, and I consider craft books a huge process paper. And as an English teacher, I used to teach process papers.
Yeah,
So I knew, what you needed to include. And all you need is just one person who's saying, oh, that's really, really great. Let's give you a shot.
exactly. Yeah. And I love the encouragement that you're giving. I really do appreciate it.
When I was working for Fox Chapel, coloring books were huge, right? I got to proofread their coloring books. And I have a whole stack of coloring books. And should I mention the coloring books? Well, they're not really a craft, they're more art. But then you get into the argument, well, they are a craft if you use that pattern, like your example, Linda, without the lines, right? And you're using them on t-shirts or hats or whatever, then it becomes a craft. So it's just how you look at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, go for it. And what they're interested in, they're again interested in all of the skills you already have.
Yeah. And then too, like when I think about pitching myself, or that, okay, I don't do crafts, I don't hang out with a lot of crafts people, but I can recognize a good idea when I see one or something that has potential. And so then clearly the book isn't written yet, but I will pitch myself to write the outline of the book or to write
Yeah,
the book proposal.
yeah,
And so that's like an additional book that you're adding. So not only then, and this happens to me a lot with cookbooks, I will work with the authors. My process is, if they have the book idea, so then we'll do 4 author coaching sessions to get them started. We'll work on the outline, we'll work on the book proposal, and
oh,
then, if they decide to hybrid publish or self-publish, they will keep me on board for the copy editing or for the developmental editing,
yeah,
or if they do pitch themselves, they'll say they're coming and they would like to work with this editor. So
yeah,
in the end, it's kind of like the bonus of having, 2 books that you're working on and the author coaching session. So the relationship lasts longer.
Yeah.
and it continues to provide income, and it's about something that I'm passionate about or that I actually like. So it's a good
Yeah.
fit overall.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. Yeah.
Great. Adam, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I'll just echo everyone else and say thank you. This has been a really fun and interesting conversation. I particularly appreciate sometimes it's a kind of elephant in the room situation, and I love so much of this conversation and what you've showed just kind of opens my eyes to like everything is an opportunity, like
Yeah.
any interest, any skill, like anything, and the potential for just for opportunities. One other specific thing that stuck out to me, it was encouraging, and I'm curious. It was encouraging to hear that it took you a year to break in with Fox Chapel.
Uh-huh.
Reminds me that we're all in it together in terms of it sometimes being a bit of a journey to get a client. But I was curious if you are able or willing to talk about that. How did you sustain that conversation for a year? Because in my head, it's just like, hey, remember me? Hey, remember me? But I'm sure like it has to be more than that. Just it's not just bugging the person, but like, so how did you cultivate that relationship? If you care to talk
Well,
about that.
she was very easy. She was interested in that I had the chutzpah to actually approach her, right? Then I would, because my husband is a wood carver, and he would bring a lot of different books that Fox Chapel, wood carving books that Fox Chapel has published home. I would actually could say in a conversation, oh, I saw your book on um, Christmas crosses or Celtic crosses. Wow, that was really good. I really liked the way that the author explained the process. So it was just little things like that, letting her know that I was really aware of what kind of books they were publishing and what was in those books. And that's what I did. And besides, I really wanted to work with them. I still, they've gone more to in-house now, but they do have an imprint that does crafts. And so my goal then is to talk to the person in charge of that imprint and say, and just again, I don't know, when I have a conversation or if I want to do something, I am not of the persuasion that I can't do it. I just do it. Now, maybe it's not going to go well, or maybe I'm not going to get the end results that I'm after, but I never know unless I try it.
Yeah, who is it? Wayne Gretzky has the famous quote, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
And you're starting to see a pattern, Adam, that some editors will be like, what do I have to lose? I'm just going to go, and if they, and sometimes it takes cultivating it for a year. So I think you're hearing a lot of these stories of how you just have to be proactive to get the kind of projects you want, and the other ones will come as well, the ones that you want that you didn't know you want. But it's okay to go out there and give yourself permission to pursue those projects that maybe.
And it's also okay to give yourself permission to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
thank you.
Wonderful, everyone. Well, we're going to wrap it up. I have another meeting that's starting in an hour. It's the cookbook editors meeting, Seeing of Craft. But if you'd like to be a part of that, let me know. Send me a message. We have those every quarter. But Cassie, thank you so much for being